Morning, all. Also, Merry Christmas for those watching on Christmas Day and all of that. I do produce videos on Christmas Day, and here we are. I wanted to talk about power rankings a bit, because why not make people angry on Christmas Day? And generally, that seems to be what power rankings do quite often, but does generate a lot of conversation, doesn't it? So what I've got on the board here is the arrangement that the teams had at the start of the season when I did what I call week 0. And when I'm labeling the power rankings, I go week by week. The week coming up is week 12. So this Saturday's will be week 12. So what I've got on the board here is the first column in black is week 0, where it's before the season started, no data to go on, just vibes, right? The red is week 4, blue is week 8, and in green is week 11, which is the week we just had on Saturday. I debated about whether or not to include where they actually are on the power rankings right now today, but I thought, no, we'll save that for a surprise on Saturday in terms of movement. So Florida's at the top of the board, and generally as a rule, numbers 1 and 2 to start a season will normally be the teams that were in the Stanley Cup final against each other. The Cup winner gets number 1 spot. The Cup runner-up is number 2. Unless there's a feeling that the team that was the runner-up might be weakened, maybe a feeling that the Stanley Cup champion might have been weakened, but I didn't feel like that with Florida or Edmonton, so they kept 1-2. And the interesting thing is, Florida's been remarkably consistent. From first place to second place in week 4, fourth place both in week 8 and week 11. So they've only dropped 3 spots since the start of the season. That's pretty good. Then you've got the Oilers. They went through their issues. Week 4, they were 19th. Week 8, they were 10th, and now they're back up to 5th. So overall, they've only lost 3 spots on the power rankings since the season started. The Dallas Stars, bit of a drop for Dallas. They were 3rd, of course, dropped to 9th, both in week 4 and week 8. They are 13th. I want to say currently, but not technically, because again, the board's changed since Saturday. But they've dropped 10 spots as of last Saturday from where they started the season. It has not been the kind of season that I think Dallas fans wanted. Oh, the Rangers. What's interesting with the Rangers is they're 4th in week 0 before the season started. They're 3rd in week 4. And I don't remember a lot of arguments against them being 4th. They're 13th in week 8, and they're 23rd in week 11. And that was up 1 spot from 24th, where they bottomed out. So that is a drop of 19 spots from where they started the season to week 11. That's a lot. Colorado dropped, goaltending playing a role, and I know they're going to be pulling themselves up. 5th at the time that the season started, 17th week 4, 12th week 8, 16th in week 11. And I can spoil this much, Colorado is not 16th. They've definitely moved up since Saturday, but it has been a drop from week 11, if you look back to week 0, 11 spots. So an average of about 1 spot a week, but again, I think they're going to be coming back up. I did view Colorado as a contender, and so I think they're still going to get back there. Nashville has been quite the story. So they were 6th in week 0. I believed. All right, they've got a team that finished 11th overall, and they've added Stamkos and Marchessault. What could go wrong? And they've added Brady Shea on the blue line. That should help. So they went from 6th in week 0 to 20th in week 4, 32nd in week 8, 29th in week 11. They have dropped 23 spots since that opening week. That is the most that a team has dropped. It's a ridiculous amount. Carolina, kind of consistent. So 7th to start the season, 4th in week 4, 5th in week 8, and 10th in week 11. So that's a drop of 3 spots and a 500 record over their last 10. So for Carolina, a bit of a tough stretch recently, but I know they'll pull themselves out of that. And then this is where it gets kind of weird for the next few here. So Winnipeg started 8th. They ended up 1st in week 4, 3rd in week 8, and then 7th this past week. So that is a net of going up 1 spot in 11 weeks, which I think is interesting. Then you got Tampa. They started the season 9th, moved up to 7th in week 4, down to 11th in week 8, and they were 8th in week 11. That is a growth of 1 spot. So they move up 1 spot from where they were to start the season. Toronto. Toronto started the season 10th, 12th in week 4, 7th in week 8, and 9th in week 11. And Toronto is always the one that's entertaining to put on the board because there will be an equal amount of people who say Toronto's overrated to you got Toronto way too low. You clearly hate Toronto. Look at that. He's got Toronto overrated again. So I don't know. I both overrate and underrate the team at the same time. It is Toronto math. Vancouver, they started the season 11th, which I remember some thinking was a little bit conservative, but I had some concerns, and I still have some concerns. The blue line is where I have the concerns. Everybody can get all, these guys may not like each other. I don't care. Fix the blue line. So 14th in week 4, 14th in week 8, and 17th in the week that we just had. That is a drop of 6 spots. Fix the blue line. Merry Christmas. Vegas goes from 12th that week 0 because I really felt like, okay, they've made some major changes. They've lost a major piece in Marcia, so they're not going to be as good as they were last year. They were 8th both in week 4 and week 8, and they were 1st this past week. So they moved up 11 spots from where they were to start the season. That's pretty good. So Vegas 1st again. Boston started the season 13th. They dropped to 25th in week 4. They were 20th in week 8, and this past week 11th. They've moved up 2 spots since the season started. Washington has had quite the run. They started the season 14th on the board, and I remember some, concern about whether or not they were actually going to be a playoff team this year. 6th is where they were in week 4, and they've been 2nd both in week 8 and week 11. That is growth of 12 spots. Since the season started, Washington has done a very good job. A lot of that without Ovechkin. Detroit started the season 15th, and I felt like, that's about right. Detroit's they should be a playoff team. Look how last season finished. Disappointing, but they should come back rip-roaring and ready to just get at her. They were 22nd by week 4, 29th by week 8, and 31st this past week. So, no Christmas miracle there. Dropped 16 spots since the season started. New Jersey started the season 16th. I got concerned in the preseason. So that'll learn me. I had some concerns about the defense and whether or not this team was going to, coalesce and make this all work. They were 11th in week 4, 6th in week 8, and 3rd in week 11. So that's a growth of 13 spots, and they're one of those rare teams that moved up every single time in terms of what I used here as a baseline. So New Jersey continues to get better, which means by week 14, 15, they should be 1st on the board, right? The LA Kings, the growth has been pretty steady from them. They were 17th to start the season. They were 15th both in week 4 and week 8. Currently, they are 6th on the board, moving up 11 spots from where they were to start the season. Pretty strong run from the LA Kings, one of the bigger risers on the board. Same spot, same difference, I should say, between Vegas and LA now as it was to start the season, as they both moved up 11 spots. Washington's moved up 12, so they're almost in the same spot between Vegas and LA now as they were to start the season. So one of those kind of odd things. The New York Islanders, it's been a drop for them, and they started the season 18th. They dropped to 31st by week 4, 21st on week 8, and 24th this past week. So that's a drop of 6 spots for the New York Islanders. Pittsburgh started 19th, dropped to 29th, moved up to 28th, and this past week, 19th. So they are in the same spot in week 11 that they were in week 1. They just had quite the adventure to get there, going through a lot of aches and pains to get there, but they've been trending in the right direction lately. Ottawa started the season 20th, ended up 10th week 4, dropped to 19th in week 8 because November, and then moved back up to 14th this past Saturday. So that's a growth of 6 spots on the overall rankings from where they were to start the season. Utah has had a good move as well, similar to the Ottawa Senators. They go from 21st that week 0 to 23rd in week 4, 27th in week 8, and this past week 15th. That's growth of 6 spots from where they were to start the season. And Utah's one that I have no idea where they're going to finish, if they're going to be a playoff team or not. But the unpredictability makes that kind of fun to watch after Christmas. And especially once we get to 4 Nations and then past that, that's where things get really crazy. St. Louis, a very steady picture here. They start the season 22nd. They were 16th on week 4, 23rd in week 8, and 21st this past week. So that's a growth of 1 spot from where they started. So, pretty remarkably consistent St. Louis. Buffalo, it's been a drop, even though I started the season 23rd for them. And I believe I said at the time as well, I hope that, they can prove me wrong and get into a playoff spot. Well, they dropped to 26th in week 4. They were up to 17th in week 8. This past week, of course, 32nd. So from the start of the season until now, they've dropped 9 spots. And that's as far as they could drop, being at the bottom of the board, which they currently are still at that spot. They did beat the Islanders, yes, but I have to be honest, one win over the Islanders did not mean, hey, now they can move right out of 32nd. It doesn't work that way for me. We'll see if they can keep it going. Seattle started the season 24th, moved up to 18th week 4, 22nd in week 8 and week 11. So they've moved up 2 spots from where they started the season. And yeah, for Seattle, they're a decent team, but are they a playoff team? Probably not. Minnesota, huge rise for Minnesota. So 25th to start the season, up to 5th by week 4. First in week 8, and now back down to 12th in week 11. So from the start of the season till week 11, that's growth of 13 spots. Of course, if I'd done this after week 8, it would have been a 24-spot rise. For the Minnesota Wild, I still think they can get back into that kind of hockey they were playing where they were absolutely a Stanley Cup contender. It's just a matter of getting back to it. I think getting healthy will be a good start. Philadelphia started the season 28th, or 26th, I should say, dropped to 28th in week 4, 18th in week 8, and 20th in week 11. So they have moved up 6 spots from where they were to start the season as well. For Montreal, they started the season 27th, a drop to 32nd in week 4, 31st in week 8, 25th in week 11, moving up 2 spots from where they started the season. Montreal, there's the makings of a good team there. Where are they going to finish? We shall see. Columbus started the season 28th, moved up to 21st in week 4, dropped to 24th in week 8, and 27th in week 11, which means they've only moved up 1 spot from where they were to start the season. Get that home record fixed. And, make sure that your road record stays pretty darn good. If Columbus can win more regularly at home, they can get back into contention for the playoffs. Calgary started the season 29th. They were 13th on the board in week 4, 16th on the board in week 8. This past week, they were 18th. It does feel like they're starting that drop, but they've still gained 11 spots from where they started the season. So much more competitive than I would have expected. Chicago, remarkable consistency from Chicago. 30th in week 0, week 4, and week 8, and 28th this past week. So they've moved up 2 spots from where they started the season. They're moving in the right direction, though, right? Anaheim started the season 31st. They were 24th in week 4, 26th in week 8, and 26th this past week as well. So they've moved up 5 spots from where they started the season. Hey, if the 2 California teams aren't at the bottom of the rankings anymore, I'm happy because the predictability, the just normal, it's always like that. It's kind of boring. San Jose, 32nd to start the season, 27th in week 4, 25th in week 8, and this past week, 30th. So moving up 2 spots from where they started the season. But any movement up is movement. And so, yeah, there you go. I just wanted to do the comparison today because it is Christmas Day. So anything that I produce today, I know that the view counts probably aren't going to be that high. I'm fine with that. But there are going to be people who today are like, I'm not all that big a fan of what today is, and I'm not a big fan of Christmas, so what can I watch? Well, here you are, video stuff. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe in the event that you may not have done so already. And yeah, it's always interesting to me because every week there's a new team that I hate. There's a new team that I'm overrating. There's a new, the comment section is always kind of fun because there's always going to be a fan base or a couple who get kind of angry or maybe surprised in a positive way about where their team is on the board. But there you go. Thank you guys so much for all your support. It's greatly appreciated. Hope you have a great day. I will talk to you again soon.